This title screen is enough proof that Persona 4 Revival will be the best remake ever. Here we go again. I can almost taste Persona 4 Revival as Sega-Atlus is relentless with their marketing strategy, releasing gameplay trailers to show off how amazing the battle system is, making a sizzle reel for each member of the investigation team, with Risa's trailer having a different length in Japan because reasons. And now we even have a 30-minute video of the demo for P4R, and it looks so darn beautiful. This is a great timeline for the Persona series, as the successful launch of P4R can help boost the marketing of Persona 6. P4R is looking to be a really big hit, given its great and complete visual overhaul, bringing character models, environments, and UI in line with Persona 5 and Persona 3 Reload style, plus fully redone in-game and animated cutscenes with MAPPA being behind it. And by far, the most important thing about P4R is that it's adapting the content of Persona 4 Golden, which means that there won't be any content missing from the title's most definitive version. Of course, not everything is all sunshine and rainbows, since this comment from Wada-san is stirring up a commotion in the community, saying that there will be changes in Persona 4 Revival's dialogue. Is this an actual good thing that will make Persona 4 be accepted in modern times, or will it backfire and ruin what made the game for what it truly is? So, here's everything Persona 4 Revival must avoid. But before the dough, if that demo made you excited for Persona 4 Revival, then like this video and join Otaku Defined for more Persona content. Persona 4 Revival must avoid overcorrecting every problematic scene. This is probably the biggest story right now regarding Revival, since at Anime Expo, Wada-san confirmed a certain change in character that left fans arguing left and right, with Yosuke Hanamura's dialogue being quote-unquote brushed up, specifically toning down moments where his treatment of outsiders reads as insensitive or homophobic to modern players. Of course, this led to everyone screaming that Atlus and P Studio is censoring Yosuke to go woke. And I can't believe I just said that on this channel. I don't really invest myself in this culture war, and I remember when woke was actually a great thing. It was defined as progressive. Now, other people see it as a form of oppression, but I digress. I do think that this whole statement from Wada-san is being taken either too literally or being overblown to proportions. But why? Well, one of the reasons is of course the endless cancerous discourse on social media, but again, I won't be opening that kind of worms. Second is that the grifters see this as an opportunity to pile hate on the series of hype and success that P4R is getting, as if saying that this game will launch dead on arrival. Third are just people who prefer the classic or the golden title, and is somewhat antagonistic against the remake, similar to people who kept spamming that Persona 3 Reload is a bad game, despite being actually a good one. So, what exactly did Wada-san mean by cleaning up Yosuke? Is this an actual censorship that will ruin his character? Will we see less of Yosuke making fun of other characters for their sexuality? Does this mean that P4R will also remove scenes that are highly offensive today? Well, not exactly. To actually quote what Wada-san stated, Yosuke is a little bit insensitive in terms of how he treats outsiders sometimes, so we wanted to lighten that up and make it a little bit more fitting for the world we live in now. This doesn't necessarily mean that Yosuke is getting censored. People tend to point out to the good with your hands comment made by Yosuke in the original, saying that he is now getting censored, when in fact this is actually the original dialogue, and the localization had the liberty to change it to something funnier. It absolutely doesn't say that they'll be removing the questionable scenes where Yosuke is being a jerk towards Kanji's sexuality, but it will obviously be rewritten to come off as more acceptable in today's standard. Now, other people would argue that those Yosuke homophobic scenes will be replaced in the same manner as Persona 3 Reload, removing the transphobia in the original, with the scene being replaced by a crazy woman believing in these weird conspiracies. People forget the difference between that scene and Yosuke's homophobia is that the former was played for jokes, and transphobia is a sensitive topic to be the focal point of a joke, especially today. So removing it virtually changed nothing for the whole plot of Persona 3 Reload. It won't affect how Junpei bashes the shadows knowing that he met a wacko conspiracist. And that's exactly what Wada meant, especially when he outright stated that Persona 4's core is intact. And the updates in the remake only seek to make the story and characters feel appropriate for the modern player. Therefore, Yosuke's flaws in failing to understand kanji better and his other crude comments won't just be removed, but rather polished in a way that won't come off as super offensive. So instead of making Yosuke's homophobia as, a joke, it will be taken in a different way where the story, characters, and even the players can think more sensitively. The best possible outcome for this Yosuke change is if he's given a better character growth where he acknowledges his mistakes, or if we can somehow get his deleted romance option. Obviously, overcorrecting a problematic scene would deter P4R's greatness, and this whole Yosuke thing isn't an overcorrection. It is the right move to make, but we'll have to wait and see for the official release to know what is the exact direction Atlus MP Studio decided on, as every remake updates certain elements. The challenge has always been avoiding overcorrection. If those scenes are absolutely removed, then that is an obvious overcorrection. Persona 4 Revival would need to preserve not just Yosuke's but the other characters' immaturity, insecurities, and growth, because that's exactly what made them so relatable and lovable. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like Yosuke is getting censored?
Well, I was just wondering if he was your type.
Oh, I get it. What you're really asking is, will you please beat the shit out of me, Kanji?
Anyway, now that we got that massive issue out of the way, let's talk about the other things that P4R needs to avoid, such as making the social link feel mechanical. Though the social link system started in Persona 3, I do believe that Persona 4 is when they learned how to lean on the strength of the system, especially with how Persona 4's whole theme of connection with other people. Thus, the heart of the game are the characters we meet, much like the original, and avoiding overcorrectness, the social link should remain the same, where the emotional moments leave an impact, like when we sing a happy birthday to our student. Be personal, such as finally being accepted as a family member of the Dojima household. Then, even though this is a game where we go inside TVs to stop a serial killer, the social link story should remain believable and enjoyable. So obviously we're all going to join the theater club. Sorry, Ayane. Another thing that Persona 4 Revival should avoid is just copying Persona 5's design motif. Thankfully, we can already see in their UIs and game design that P4R isn't just a clone of P5, which has been one of the glaring problems of Persona 3's remake, where Reload lost its identity and became a mere reflection of P5's style. While P4R's UI and game design looks cluttered at first, every little detail it has speaks so much on what Persona 4 truly is, such as from the TV design motif seen in the battle system with the knob for actions. And my gosh, the camera is so freaking dynamic, not just in battle but even in dialogues, truly separating P4R from the other two modern Persona games. Now, with this, I may seem to be hyping this remake too much, so let's talk about one negative thing I dislike about P4R, and that is the dungeons are still being procedurally generated as seen on the demo. Well, sure, I think they wanted to avoid copying Persona 5's dungeon design, which is good, they should avoid that, where each palace is carefully designed to suit the rulers. P4R decided on staying true with the original. In a way, it still does make sense, as a conflict between the character and the shadow are affecting their mind and heart. Not to mention the team is rescuing them from the TV world, but I digress. Since P4's dungeon system has always been its weakest asset, I was just hoping to see it improve. Nonetheless, the dungeons do look better, so it's a good compromise for them not adding handcrafted dungeons. Speaking of new things, Persona 4 Revival should absolutely avoid making additions just to pad playtime. One concern with a remix is the temptation to keep adding new scenes simply because it's a remake. And people have questioned whether the rumored extra school events would upset the pacing of an already 80 to 100 hour game. In my case, hey, more content for P4 means more fun for me. But this new content should help strengthen the theme, deepen the characters, and not simply be added to increase playtime. If this new content is more akin to P4R's dorm hangouts, then we've absolutely won. I mean, remakes of course won't hesitate in adding new things, such as quality of life updates, since Persona 4 for its age has a lot of junkiness. However, Persona 4 Revival should avoid making quality of life updates that will remove the actual challenge of the game. This has been an ongoing issue for Persona games since Persona 5, where the difficulty is absolutely kind. While there's nothing wrong with that, but a little challenge should still be there. Now, this doesn't mean that the game should implore time wasters, such as making the game grindier or the shadows having health sponges, but rather avoid taking players by the hand in playing through the game. There's already been some minor UI gripes with the unwanted butterfly guidance marker, as excessive quest markers water down the procedurally generated dungeons. P4R should avoid using obvious hints, and no matter how long this game is, constant tutorials will drive anyone crazy. So, if Persona 4 Revival end up doing all of the things from this no-no list, then it will end up suffering what Persona 3 Reload went through, with people having a reason to prefer Golden over Revival. This is arguably the most important point of the video. A remake should become the definitive edition, not simply a prettier one. Players shouldn't finish Revival thinking, well, Golden did that better. P4R should be able to preserve everything that made Golden beloved, modernize and improve what has genuinely aged as a game from the 2000s and early 2010s, all without sacrificing the game's identity. Persona 4 Revival's biggest challenge is that Golden remains highly accessible and well-beloved even to this day. In any case, I love that Sega-Atlus is on full force in marketing Persona 4 Revival, and it's even the first Persona game that will be dubbed in Chinese. Speaking of which, Blackwing Studio and P5X is facing a backlash because of Hatsune Miku. Strange as it sounds, but P5X players are actually mad that Miku was added as a character in the game. If you're curious about that, then check this video out. Join Otaku Defined for more Persona content. This is Mav, and stay awesome, my dudes!